But what we're finding is that there has been and continues to be an explosion of sex addiction cases coming to light.
Sure.
And by sex addiction, we mean, it's everything from pornography addiction to escorts to prostitution to
massage parlors,
and a lot of times it could start off with pornography and it escalates over time. But it's becoming serious enough that we feel this need to at least talk about it, because you and I, we're men, obviously,
right.
and we talk to men all the time that maybe the recreational pornography use seems like it's starting to get a life of its own, or things are happening, and and so much of it is that we have this, it's like the perfect concoction for addiction.
Sure.
Because you can escalate as deep as you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievably stimulating to the brain.
Sure.
And it can be completely anonymous.
And it could also be tailor-made to your specific niche, whatever that issue is that you have. And that's kind of how marketers put together pornography, as they understand the unresolved issues in men through research from neuroscience and from psychology and psychiatry, and they take this information and they literally tailor marketing and visuals that touch unresolved issues in men. And so what may start off as a social interaction with friends can turn into this personal, isolated, compulsive type of existence that we know. And that's the far end of it. But we know that it exists. And talk a little bit more about that.
I mean, it's fascinating, right? Mm-hmm. Because, as you, pornography sites will have a myriad of images of all types of things. And that's not haphazard. This isn't some, poor HTML coding skills. This is a very strategic direction, because one of those things is going to hit you in a way that the others won't. And they know that in that instant, if they can get your attention and you come in, then the odds are way more significant that you will end up spending money and then go deeper into this.
Sure.
But I find them, it's still this thing that most men still don't talk about it.
Right.
And we just don't know what kind of happens. And I think a lot of, too, it's important for us to communicate that we know, say, pornography and these things, it can be an addiction. I think a lot of people are used to thinking of substances as addiction.
Sure.
But these things change the brain in ways. Every time, when you look at pornography, you get neurochemical releases in significant amounts, and that can shape the brain and the wiring over time. And as that continues, we cross that invisible line. All of a sudden, this thing now is controlling us way more than we thought.
Sure. I'm just thinking about how healthy sexuality and how intimacy was modeled to men. And I know in my own personal experience, there weren't a ton of good, healthy models of how to be intimate and how to approach women, or even, you're sort of a teenager and you're thrown a magazine or you're shown something. but those experiences, they have an impact. And so you sort of remember that and you kind of want that stimulation again, and you wonder. So there are men who literally for years may have had, unhealthy modeling as well, that have in their adult life, gone on the internet, found a little pornography, and has seen this escalating, intensified experience that they're having that has turned into a problem that interferes with areas of their lives, and which is one of the benchmarks of how we even use criteria to address it as an addiction. There's an actual criterion that we use. But it's just amazing what's modeled, and that a lot of men don't understand. It's not this moral issue, as you said. It's not a shame-based punitive issue, but it is an issue, and it's exploding, and it's all over the place. And I think that we're fortunate enough to have been trained, and that's a niche within our practice. That's the specialty, even though we address a lot of other issues as it relates to trauma and family of origin. But that sex addiction piece is really serious.
Yeah, it is serious. And and again, just one more time to reiterate, there's no judgment on this. We're not trying to talk about it from a shame base. We talk about only from the ability to create addictions, which fundamentally we want to help people heal from.
Right.
But I mean, I was in the library the other day. This is a while back. I'm in the library, and there's maybe a 10 or 11-year-old kid there, and he's on the internet and just looking at kind of explicit stuff, not real serious pornography, but just pictures of things that this kid should probably not be looking at. And so there's all kinds of cases where kids get exposed to this. I have another friend, and he said he's got a son that's, I think, 9 years old, and they sit on the bus. One child had a smartphone, and he's looking at pornography, and everyone's kind of huddled around looking at that. How does that affect how someone develops their sense of what healthy sexuality is?
Yeah, it's amazing, and what we call that is the arousal template, which are all of the experiences from your family of origin, from school, from church, from your social development, ways that you've been exposed to sex and sexuality. We call it the arousal template because as innocent as what you described is, it sets a pattern, and there's this template that happens where now you start adding these experiences and these images to seek whatever it is, as I talked about earlier, this unresolved place that a lot of pornographers have marketed heavily. They've done the research, they have the information, they know what's lacking in men's lives, and they literally focus on that. So it's the irony of looking at pop-ups, or being called a pop-up. You know, you go online and you see this big pop-up, and it's like, whoa, what was that? And you go investigate, and then there's another pop-up, and pretty soon you find yourself in this labyrinth that you're lost in about all these images, and it's like, whoa. And all of a sudden, the menu opens where anything that you can think of is available.
Anything. So what are some of the things that, I guess, I don't know how much time we have here, but...
A couple more minutes.
Okay. Well, then, let's do this. What would you say to people watching this that are questioning whether maybe whether there's something deeper going on with their pornography use or around this area? Is there any things to help for people to be looking for, or to watch out for, or just to speak to that, just to help them to know kind of where they're at in this?
Absolutely. First, there's criteria that we use, as I mentioned. If you find yourself spending an inordinate amount of time on the internet viewing pornography, if some of your social circles have been affected by your compulsivity or your obsessiveness with pornography, if it's costing you money, if it's affecting your marriage, if it's affecting you at work because of your obsessive behavior, whether it's massage parlors to include prostitutes, escorts, all these areas. If there's an invasion or an imposition in those areas that affect your life, then those are the beginning signs that maybe that's something that needs to be looked at. And
absolutely. I think, yeah, and just saying on the same lines as you, if there's ever been a desire to stop and an inability to do so, that's a sign that the brain is changing in a way where all of a sudden we're kind of losing the resolve. And so when there's that in any area of our life, that's something to kind of just be aware of.
Sure. Well, I'm looking forward to more of these conversations with you, Eric, and I think we can go a little deeper, a little further.
Talk more about the trauma underneath
Absolutely.
why addictions would even start.
Sure. So I'm looking forward to that. I hope that some information was passed that was helpful for any of you. You want to share our information?
Sure. You can find us online at www. I guess it's all www. You don't need to say
World
that.
Wide Web. www.
Yeah, World Wide Web. It's Insideout Recovery. Insideoutrecovery.com, and we have a mailing list there. Feel free to sign up. We're going to send out more information about some of the things we're talking about in these videos. And of course, if anyone out there feels like maybe they've crossed that invisible line and you want to talk with someone confidentiality, you're more than welcome to call into us, and we'd be happy to talk with you more about this area.
There are a ton of opportunities. There are groups, there are intensives, there's individual session opportunities. So, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. We'll expound about that at a later time.
So,
thank you.
have a great week, everyone.
Take care.